The smell of fresh newspapers. Early mornings were fantastic in Puleshwar. Early mornings were fantastic in Bombay. Early mornings were fantastic in Anand Andheri. Sometimes when I look at a newspaper cutout or a design that I kind of just did for myself, I think of early mornings and I think of the smell of fresh newspapers. There was a certain smell that Bombay Samachar, Indian Express, and Times of India gave away. The same smell was there in Indradal comics, whether it was Flash Gordon, who fought Ming and other villains in the space much before He-Man came. There was Flash Gordon. Then there was Mandrake the Magician, who liked his house in Xanadu, and he had the world's strongest man on his side, Lothar. And then, of course, there was Bahadur. Bahadur's father was a dacoit in Jambal, but Inspector Vikram sets him on the right path, and he and Bela together take on the villains of Jambal, the dacoits or the dakus in Jambal. And then there was Phantom. Oh my God. He had a beautiful girlfriend called Diana Spencer. He had a beautiful house that looked like a skull. He lived in a cave that was called the Skull Cave. And they thought that he was a man that can never die. But they didn't know his secret, only the pygmies knew. And they had various sayings. Phantom is rough on roughnecks. And Phantom was the man who couldn't die. So you could smell this in the newspapers. There would be small comics, Hubert, or depending on which newspaper you get, Hubert or Blondie or Mutt and Jeff, or even Tintin, Modesty Blaze. It was all happening, I tell you. Those were the beautiful days. And you could smell the fresh ink on that paper that was recycled, whether it was Times of India or Bombay Samachar, and somebody would come and stuff it in the rails that you had in front of your door. So there was your door, and then you had an extra door for safety, and you could look at people before you let them in, and people would stuff the newspaper and keep the milk bottles. The milk bottles either had red caps or blue caps, which had silver stripes in them, and they tasted like magic. You could take out the red caps and lick the little cream on it. It was all magic. It was all beautiful. I remember my uncle in proper Bombay getting up early in the morning, listening to Kanji Swami, and then reading the newspapers. The newspapers in those days did not give you much information. In fact, they hid much more than they showed. Whether it was Kashmir or... Let's not get into politics. But yeah, the smell of fresh newspapers. And then you would wait for the grandfathers and fathers and uncles to finish reading so that you can cut out a piece of your comic, stick it in a rough book. And even though your mother would say, look, why are you using fresh books to stick these cartoons? Why can't you use used books? And today it makes a lot of artistic sense to have used books, but in those times you were a Puritan, you were a romantic, you wanted to do it right. And that was the magic of those times. Thank you for listening.